How long do you think it took me to decide? 2 nanoseconds, free trip to California. So fly out to California, but before I left, I promised my mom, no way am I moving to California. Right, there are crazies out there, it's going to fall in the ocean anyway because of earthquakes, no way, it's just a free trip to California. I get home from the free trip, but guess what? Walk in the room and mom sees me, she knows I'm moving to California. So at the ripe old age of 18, I get in my 1956, 66, 67, right, it was sort of a bomb, right, put together extra body parts car and drive to California with 2 other guys. And to go to start working for Intel at the ripe old age of 18. Now that I have kids that age, no way. But there I was, off across the country at 18 years old. And my 2 roommates were real solid spiritual guys. One was Bob and one was Jack. And Bob's favorite thing to do was sort of Army surplus stores and getting bomb parts. Yeah, blow things up, right? So Bob's and bombs. And Jack, sort of the things he liked to do sort of centered around the bong in the middle of the living room. Right, so, Bob and Jack, bombs and bongs, right, so you can tell it was a very spiritual household that we had. And the first time Linda met my roommate, and get the words out there, she immediately started to question if I was really a Christian or not. Well, I had gone to church every Sunday since I was growing up. So what did I do? Moved to California. Went to church. So church was down the street. And I was sort of sitting in the back pew, sort of over there somewhere. And there was this girl sitting in the pew in front of me. And what do you do at church? You greet people, right? That's what you're supposed to do. So Linda comes up to me after church, and she greets me, and this was the first meeting between Linda and Pat. And she thinks I'm a smart aleck kid. I am. I think she's a silly high school girl. She's not, right? But we have no interest in each other at all. Just friends, if that. But she takes mercy on me. So this is in late in the year. So this is in November of 1979. And I had neither vacation nor money to go back for Christmas. So she invites me over to her house for Christmas. And it's Linda, her mom, and her grandma. So I have 3 generations of good cooks. Right? I'm a single 18-year-old guy living on the West Coast, no place to go. What do you think? That's an easy decision, right? Of course, I'm going to go over and get free food at their house. Well, we had a great night. And in particular, Grandma and I hit it off great. We were playing games, and I'd look at Grandma and I'd say, play this card. And she'd play that card or whatever. Grandma and I just hit it off great. And as the evening ended, I left. Grandma closes the door. She turns to Linda and says, he's the one. First time. Now, Linda, right, she has great respect for her grandma. A very godly Christian woman. Great respect for her. And she looks at Grandma and starts enumerating my many shortcomings. I remember, we have no romantic, she just starts going down the list. And, it's just terrible. She couldn't dream, right, that Grandma would actually say something like this. Well, about 2 months later, right, as Linda and I still just friends, Linda's mom turns to Linda and says, he's the one. So now I got 2 generations on my side, right? Things are looking good. It just took Linda, a couple of years to come to the same conclusion. So anyway, so Linda and I, we started to date, and shortly thereafter. And but when we start to date, I tell Linda what my plan is. I'm going to finish my bachelor's. I just had an associate's degree in Intel, so I'm going to do 3 more years, finish my bachelor's, then I'm going to finish my master's, then I'm going to finish my PhD, then I'm probably going to do postdoc work, right, before I think about getting married. Right? I just, I had a plan. Bachelor's, master's, PhD, postdoc, right, the better part of 10 years. And I was just very upfront, very direct, open, right? So we're just dating, right, getting to know each other, and then, well, my plan and God's plan come headlong into each other. And Linda had a disease, endometriosis, a disorder of the reproductive system. She had surgery for that, 1 ovary removed, part of the 2nd one removed. And the doctor says, if you ever want to have kids, now or never. So, now or never. And you remember, we're dating, and I have a 10-year plan. Well, as we're going through this discussion, she comes over and has an armful of medical books. And, right, if a girlfriend ever comes to you with an armful of medical books, you know you're in trouble. Right? Just, you know, and she explains what's going on, and, you know, I tell her I'm going to make a decision, right? Because, you know, if I don't want to, you know, get married sooner and have children, you know, I should tell her so she could go find somebody else. Or if I do, do it now, and not 10 years from now after I finish my bachelor's, master's, and PhD postdoc. So, you know, we started, and I agonized through this all summer long, and shall we say, God's plan was better than my plan. And after, you know, we decided to get married at the end of that summer, and that part of one ovary produces Elizabeth. We named her Elizabeth after the mother of John the Baptist from the barren womb, right? Came forward Elizabeth. Well, Linda conceives a second time, and next we have Josiah, who's the one in the middle and the bottom there, and Josiah is now, or I should tell you, and Elizabeth is now a school teacher in Shanghai, China. She teaches 3rd grade in an international school there. That part of one ovary produces Josiah. Josiah just moved to Boston. Right, and we are absolutely thrilled. And he got married last summer to Carly, who's shown there, and she's going to BU for journalism, graduate school, and he's going to Suffolk for his graduate in economics. And the next one, Nathan, over here at the bottom. Nathan graduated from William Jessup University. He's just started as a youth minister at a church in Beaverton. Oregon, outside of Portland. And our baby Micah is working and maybe going to college this fall. We'll see what happens to him. And Elizabeth is 27, Nathan, Josiah 24, Nathan 22, and Micah 20. God's plan was just a little bit better than my plan. And we have 4 incredible blessings that came into our life as a result of God's desire for our life instead of my plan for our life. And as you can tell, we're incredibly blessed by our 4 wonderful children today. But going back to the skit, no grandchildren yet. So, as I mentioned, I had been raised in the church, met Linda in the church, and thought I was a Christian. And started going to the church where Linda was attending. And a few months after attending there, the sermon that day was on Revelation 3, 15, and 16. And from that sermon, the text, I know your deeds, that you are neither hot nor cold. Right? I wish you were one or the other. But since you are neither cold nor hot, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. And that word for spit is one of the most graphic words in the entire New Testament. Right? It says, you are so disgusting to me, I'm going to vomit you out of my mouth. Right? I wish you were either hot or cold. I wish you had nothing to do, right, feigning religion. But since you're this lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. And what was I? Remember, I like to look good on Sunday. Remember, I'm there to impress the grandmothers and the mothers and the girls that I was interested in, right? And I lived the rest of the life with Bob and Jack with bombs and bombs. So that February of 1980, I decided to be hot for God. Right? And I was going to move past this lifestyle of being lukewarm for Him. And so I guess I would challenge each one of you this evening, are you hot or cold? Right? You're here in this church tonight. Do you come hot for God? Or do you just like to visit now and then? Or maybe you have nothing to do at all with the Lord Jesus. Tonight, before you leave, we want to give you the opportunity to make that firm declaration for exactly who you are in Jesus Christ. And it is, as it was for me, the most important decision you will make for your entire life. So, having now worked hard I was working at Intel, and my career was going just great. Right? I started as a technician, and I got promoted every year, right, for 15 years. I started going to school. Right? Remember, that's what I was doing. I had my plans, so I finished my bachelor's at Santa Clara. I was working on my master's at Stanford. Started a family. Right? Remember Linda? Right? So now I'm full-time at work, full-time at school, and raising a family as well. Right? And it's not a graduate program at Stanford. What do you think? Is that pretty mild? Pretty intense school. I remember one of the first classes I went into at Stanford. It's like, I don't even know the questions, much less the answers, right? Wow, these people are really smart. And I'm working on these lightweight projects like the 286, the 386, architect of the 486, incredibly intense work schedule, right? You can start anytime you want before 8, and you can quit anytime you want after 5, right? It just goes on. It's all consuming. And through this period of working full-time, going to school full-time, and getting a family, I began to gain what I call my juggling skills. How do you make all those things fit? How do you possibly get all those things balanced in your life? And those juggling skills, I think have been, a huge portion of my success, both in our family, as well as in my career, as well as in my faith. Over my career at Intel, rose up to be a senior vice president, became the first ever chief technology officer for Intel. CTO for Intel, that's pretty cool, right? If you're in the technology field, that's about as cool as a job can possibly get. Eventually running half the business. We moved to EMC September 15th of last year was my first day working for EMC, and now run all of the products for the company, and almost all the business groups report to me. And now we have this lifestyle of bi-coastal. What does that mean? So we're 2 weeks a year, 2 weeks of the month we're on the West Coast, 2 weeks of the month we're on the East Coast. So Linda and I hop up, fly to our Hopkinton house. Then we grab our briefcase and purse, and we fly to our Oregon house. When I'm on the West Coast, EMC has lots of businesses there. We have VMware, we have Data Domain, we have Documentum, we have Mozy, we have iOmega, all those businesses on the West Coast. So lots of reasons to be on the West Coast. And then we fly back to the East Coast, back to headquarters. 2 weeks later, we fly back to the West Coast. What do you think? Is that a crazy lifestyle? Right? So now we're bi-coastal, going back and forth. And through all of this, I'd say, what are the skills? What are the ways that you can possibly make all those things fit in life? And how do you juggle? How do you keep them all in balance? And that's what I want to spend the rest of our time talking about today, is how to make these things fit. And as we begin the discussion of that, I was working on a project with Intel. I was working on the 386, and I had the great opportunity to present to the executive staff at Intel. And the project was not going well at the time. We were having some serious computer problems, and just challenges for the project to go forward. And I presented to the executive staff of Intel, and these are like the gods of the industry. We have Bob Lewis, the inventor of the transistor and Nobel Prize winner, Gordon Moore, right? Moore's Law. We have Andy Grove, Time Magazine man. These are the people in the audience, and that's who I'm presenting to as this very low-level, technician guy presenting, like 20 levels high in management, right? So just incredible presentation. But I was very blunt and direct. If we don't fix these things, I can't finish my check. So I'm very direct, and much more direct than as a junior guy that I had deserved to be. Well, a couple of days later, I'm sitting in my office, and the phone rings, and it's Andy Grove. Right? And he starts shelling me with questions at the time. And he says, "What are you reading? What are you studying? What are your career objectives?" And it just blew me away that here is the president of the company reaching down to me as a entry-level guy. Right? And what are you doing? As my career progressed, I had many successes. I had my first patent when I was, in my 20s. became vice president when I was 31 for Intel. I wrote my first book. How many of you read my first book? Did you read it? You think so? It's a thriller. Programming the 8386. You haven't read it yet? You might be able to find it on eBay, right? Some of those things are out of print, you know, so on. So I got to this point in life where all the things I wanted to do, I had sort of this unwritten thing. I got my degrees. I, became, finished my first chip. I was an inventor. Wrote my first book, and all of a sudden it's like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Right? And that question that Amy had asked me, what are your goals? What are your objectives in life? It just sort of rung in the back of my mind. I sort of struggled through this for several years. So what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Right? And you can get more money, right? You can get more resources. You can have more friends, but you can't get more time. It's the one thing that you can't get more of. And we make a plan for everything that we do in life. Imagine that you're going to go to your boss tomorrow, and you say, I'd like $10 million for a project. And your boss says, what project? Oh, I don't know yet. I haven't made a plan yet. But I'd like $10 million so I can get started on it. You like $10 million and you don't have a plan? This isn't going to go very well, just to let you know. Or, you go to your husband and you say, we want to go on a vacation starting tomorrow. Where are we going to go? Right? I don't know, but we're going tomorrow. Drive and fly. I don't know yet, but we're leaving tomorrow. Let's pack and go. Or if you're building a house, you just start bringing in the cranes and the backhoes. No, you make a plan first. You make a plan for everything that we do in life. School, work, house. You make a plan for everything. But do you make a plan for your life? And I think this subject of juggling and making things fit, right, the question is, right, do you have, do you have a plan for life? And I think this is where, right, a mission statement, a personal mission statement, where you have to just make a plan, just like that $10 million project, just like that vacation. What is your plan for life? And having struggled as I got to this point when I was 32, I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, and I spent an agonizing year sort of working through and developing my own mission statement for life. And I think a mission statement has 3 different parts to it. Okay, there we go. And the first part, right, is, and I write it like an epitaph. Right? When you finish this life, when you leave this world, what do you want people to remember you for? Right? And that would be your mission. Right? And second part of it would be your values. If somebody says, what is Pat like? These would be the things. Oh yeah, turn it sideways. Yeah, there we go. Turn it sideways and then think it'll work. Yeah, it's in the back. Perfect, thank you. Values. If somebody says, what's Pat like? These would be the things I would want them to say about me. That I work hard, right? That I enjoy life, right? That I give my best, that I seek the counsel of other people. And finally, is what are my goals? The specific things that I want to do in life. And then every year I get this out. I do it at tax time, by the way. At tax time, I'm already depressed, so it's a good time to grade myself, right? On my goals. But I go back and I grade myself on everything that I said I was going to do that year. Right? And some of my goals, give a larger percentage of everything that I do, total income to charity and to God's work. Baptize my children into Christ. Become president and CEO. Memorize scripture. Date my wife. Those are my goals. The question I have for you, and each one of us, there's too many things that are trying to fit into our life. What are your priorities? What are your goals for your life? What's your personal mission statement that you're pursuing? And as we start this journey of juggling, of balancing, of multitasking, what is the thing you want to do with the rest of your life? And if you haven't figured that out yet, how do you decide? Because you don't know where you're going and what your goals are. So, then, having a mission statement for life, then the question is, how do you live that way? And almost all all of us, as we look at our priorities in life, right, we almost always get our priorities inverted. What our goals are for life. A godly priority of goals is God, family, and work. And what does it almost always work out to be for those of us in the workplace? Work, family, God. So we almost always take the godly priorities, God, family, and work, and invert them to work, family, God. So the question isn't knowing what's right, it's how do you get that into your life on a regular basis, that's how you live. So faith, how do I put God on the throne of my life every day? And how do I prioritize that relationship with Him on a daily basis? And a lot of this is just these simple little things that you start grounding into your daily life. Like for me, one of the things I decided to do many, many years ago, Andy Grove challenged me to do this, right? And he said, read the Wall Street Journal every day. Okay, so I started reading the Wall Street Journal every day when I was young. But now, before I read the Wall Street Journal, I read God's Bible. So before the business Bible, I read God's Bible. And some weeks, I might get 3 or 4 unread Wall Street Journals at the end of the week. I know it's not been a good week for being in God's Word every day. But that's just one of the things. There I am, having my morning coffee, ready to reach for the Wall Street Journal. Okay, I can't do that yet. Right? And the question is, what do you do in your life to bring you back to have that daily relationship with God? Before I meet with somebody, I say a short prayer. Because it's not just a meeting, a business meeting, right? It's also a relationship with that person as well, whether he's a Christian or not. And just to be able to say that short popcorn prayer, God, bless this time with them. I also take Thursdays are my fasting day. So I skip at least 2 meals, maybe 3 meals every Thursday. And that's just a day of fasting. When you have your bodily disciplines, and make that part, as the body is hungry, right? It's a reminder, okay, today on Thursdays, the day to come back to God, right? In focus and priority on a daily basis. And those are some of the things I do. The question is, what are you going to do? Put God on the throne of your life every day. Second is family. And with family, there's just always so much stuff crowding in, right? Work projects, from our skit, right? You see all these things, I need a job, right? Everything is pressing on us. So how do you put family as a priority in your schedule? A number of years ago, I was we were working on this project, and Andy Grove decided that I was going to launch that project. So it was PC Expo. I had to be in New York City for this product launch. And it so happened that that very week was a big family vacation that we had planned. Okay? Work, family, conflict. And by the way, priorities are really easy until you have a conflict. Right? It's when you have a conflict that priorities get to be really important. So Andy Grove comes up to me and says, you're going to do the product launch. Remember now, this is the president, CEO, founder of the company telling me, right, as a senior engineer at the time, that you're going to do this product launch. But we had a long-standing plan for our family vacation at the time. So what do you think I told Andy? So I told Andy no. Right, I have a commitment to my family at the time. Now, you can imagine, the president, the founder, right, of the company, right, and he is ready for me to say no, don't you think? And his response to me, after I told him no, I can't do it, was, no, you are going to launch this product. You will do that. Right? He was not taking this easily. And my response to him was, no, I'm keeping my commitment to my family. Andy was livid with me. He was furious. I mean, in the order of life, right, I was something below an amoeba. Right? He was just furious with me. Right, at one point, HR intervened on my behalf because he was just, who's going to tell Andy Grove no? Right, and I told him no because I'm keeping this commitment with our family, right, at the time. And the question in your life is, are you ready to make those trade-offs? And are you doing things to keep family as a priority in your life on a regular basis? One of the things I started doing with our kids early was we would have a weekly breakfast. So every week I take one of the kids out for breakfast. We have 4 kids, so one each week. Every month I take one of the kids for breakfast. So it was just one of those things. And weekends, right? Already doing special things with the kids. We would Linda and I have date nights, right? Every 2 weeks we'd say we're doing a date night together. At least once a year, if not twice a year, we do weekends away that we're doing. Things that just say family is priority. We're going to put these things into our life on a regular basis. We also, and this is for engineers, if you're an engineer, you'll like this, have this conversation where Linda said, "You're not home much lately." Has that ever happened to you? And I responded, "Yeah, I've actually been home more this month than last month." And she responded, "No, you haven't." And I responded, "Yes, I have." She said, "No, you haven't." "Yes, you have." "Yeah." Right? You know that this is not going to be a very productive conversation. So what we came up with is the at-home chart. So the at-home chart works like this. My secretary keeps score, right? If I'm home by 6:15, right, that's 1 point, right? If I'm home by 5 o'clock, that's 2 points. If I'm home after 6:15 or dinner meeting or not home, that's 0 points. So that's the numerator. And the denominator is the number of work days. Oh yeah, weekends are -1. Right? So if I'm going on a weekend day for travel or something like that, and then we produce this graph every month. Right? So we have now almost 20 years of history in this graph. Believe it, it's going up and down. And we set goals, right? So the at-home score, the goal is 70%. Right? So now, right, Linda says you haven't been home much lately. So we can pull the graph out, and guess what, right? You're right, honey, I haven't been home much lately, right? We have, the monthly score, we have the running 12-month average, we have the median, the standard deviations, kurtosis, everything with it. And then she could say, "Oh, you have been home more. I haven't felt like you've been home." Oh, that's an entirely different question, right? I haven't closed the PC at night, right? I've been home by 5, but was I really at home? So just whatever